Vegas man who claims he can summon UFOs on command. Pretty wild. So we sent Action News reporter Mike Delastrito to get the real story. But what he found shocked everyone and could leave you wondering, are UFOs real?
All right, guys, just listen up here. This guy says the Old Testament, written in Hebrew, taught him how to summon UFOs. All right, he says he can also do this on command, and he adds he's been doing it for 25 years, keeping all of it secret until now.
These beings are here. They're here. They're just sitting right up there.
We met up with Prophet Yahweh, seer of Yahweh, at Doolittle Park off Lake Mead. We picked the day, we picked the time, and we picked the location. Everyone's going to think you're absolutely nuts.
Well, I thought I was absolutely nuts.
Until he says he saw UFOs. Over the years, 1,500 of them.
Can we make it 1,501 today? What do you think?
I'll try it.
He says the voice in his head told him to go public now. So we took him up on his offer, and we scanned the skies. Nothing but a few clouds. When the prophet started praying for a sighting, I wasn't exactly convinced.
I pray, oh Yahweh, that you send a sighting so that they know that I am not mentally ill. I am not a false prophet, like those who seek to kill me say I am.
I see something straight up.
Oh, brother, look at it. There it is.
You can barely see it, a white speck. Then another sighting.
There it is. I got it.
Photojournalist Jonathan Hawkins locks in on it. Let's take a closer look here. It's an orange sphere that appeared out of nowhere. I call the boss with an unexpected change in my story. I can see it clear as day. In fact, it's bright.
I can't believe this.
It's moving pretty fast.
It's going to Nellis Air Force Base. It wants to be seen.
We called Nellis to see what these things might be. Guess what? They didn't call us back. But this thing started coming back toward us.
It's coming toward us now, I think.
What?
See, it's coming up toward us.
Whoa, man! Oh, hallelujah!
Then, a few seconds later, it disappeared.
It's going back up in space.
Prophet Yahweh isn't concerned. He says it'll be back. And I'm still not quite sure what those things were. Now, if I didn't see this for myself, I probably would have just laughed this whole thing off. Prophet Yahweh says, though, this is just the beginning. He says we're going to see a lot more of these things starting next week. And he says one will come down low enough for all of Las Vegas to see. Mike Delastrito, Channel 13 Action News.
Interesting. You know what? If anybody knows what that was, please call Mike Delastrito and identify that object.
So, Jerry, do you mind if we play the X-Files theme song while you do what?
Yeah, really.
I think.
One is to have an open heart, an open mind, and good intention. You apply these 3 rules, and I'm sure you'll get good results. What I do actually is I look in the sky for a blue patch of sky, and I pick just one spot in that sky, and I look deep into that sky with my eyes, as deep as I can. So I'm going to start looking in the sky right now, and you do the same thing. And I call them at the same time I'm looking out there, project that thought, and they pick it up and they come down. We are like transmitters, and we have this ability. I don't verbally do it, I do it telepathically.
It's okay.
Did you, like his first, you see him move like real quick and then... Holy cow, that's a great orb.
It's really glimmering in the light up there.
You're right. You sure is.
Let me see that camera, Robert. Wow, he just jumped to the side. He just jumped to the side really fast.
That's what I'm saying. He does first like really quick.
You still there?
Yep.
Yeah?
He's spazzing.
Where? He's gonna flash right now.
Oh yeah, he's right there. Yeah, he flashed.
You see it?
It's crazy. It's always been pretty simple, just going out there and applying my technique and telling them to show up, and they do show up.
Wow. Oh, epic footage, guys. Epic.
You got it. Perfect.
Epic footage. Oh. Wow.
My sister, before my wife came around, used to be leader of the state of Ohio, the high priestess there of the whole state. And her little pastime was calling up, supposedly filling the sky with UFOs and watching everybody's excitement. And some of the most outstanding sightings were in the early 70s in Ohio. And she used to laugh about it because she'd be standing in a circle out in the field somewhere calling up demons. And that's all they were angels of light playing games in the sky. Remember, a demon, get the little spooky picture. There are a fallen angel, an unclean spirit. They can assume any form or go into anything except a Christian who walks in the Spirit all the time. Know any? You know, or in other words, a Christian who keeps it under the blood and so on. But they can assume forms, including spacemen or solid objects like flying saucers or so on. That's why when they appear on the radar scope and a jet gets up there, they vanish right in front of the pilot's eyes because they're nothing but a spirit.
Story to tell. He had spent the night doing a night watch on top of Oliver's castle. It was a cold and wet night, and nothing happened. He fell asleep, but was awakened by a strange sound in the early morning hours. As he got up, he saw bright balls of light rushing over a wheat field below. He grabbed his video camera and pressed record. When we take a closer look at this remarkable footage, we see several interesting similarities between these lights and those filmed on different occasions in later years. For instance, once again we see the acceleration feature. splitting of a light into two separate lights also was captured by John Smith. And how about this feature? No matter how far the lights travel from the camera's lens, they do not become smaller to our perception. Despite all these anomalous similarities, many people still believe the Oliver's Castle footage to be a hoax. The footage is simply too good to be true. But then, in the year 2000, scientist Dr. Eltjo Hazeloff from the Netherlands delivered what appears to be a convincing and ultimate proof.
If you perform trivial experimental physics to the plans in these crop circles, you can in fact deliver scientific evidence that these balls of light might very well have caused the crop circle. Inside crop circles, it was discovered 5 or 6 years ago that the nodes, which are the knuckles in the stems, are actually much longer, quite often. And it is suggested that this increase in length is a result of heat. The nodes get warm, they expand, it's a thermal expansion, and they remain long afterwards. So you can measure the increased node length.
And that's exactly what he did. He sampled several crop circles and very meticulously measured hundreds of nodes. The outcome was crystal clear. The nodes had expanded the most in the centers of the circles. The closer to the perimeter of the circles, the less the nodes had expanded. Dr. Hazeloff then compared this distribution model of node lengthening with several other mathematical models and discovered a 100% match with one of them. The mathematical model of electromagnetic radiation distribution of a point source.
And then you've really got to wonder, why is the nature of it so deceptive? You know, if they're really here to help us, as some of these contacts claim, you know, why do they go around acting deceptively? Why do they stealthily abduct people in the middle of the night? And, you know, when I say it was confronting, there was some subject matter that was particularly disturbing. You know, people claim they've been taken onto a spaceship and probed in all parts of their bodies. There are sexual encounters. There seems to be some sort of almost ritual abuse that's going on. So you've got to ask, why would advanced, you know, evolved creatures, you know, kidnap people in the middle of the night and do these horrible things to them, and yet say, you know, we're here to help you evolve? And it's interesting that, you know, we'd like to apply, if you like, a scientific tag to it. But quite simply, it seems that these creatures claim that they fly millions of light years across the universe to basically deny the Bible, Christianity, and teach us almost New Age beliefs. Because they basically say, you know, you and I are going to be like gods or something like this, and they're helping us to try to, you know, evolve into some spiritual aspect. People that claim these abduction experiences say that little grey entities enter their room in the middle of the night and they see them pass through the walls, or they see them enter through the ceiling. And then these people who believe that they've had some real physical experience claim they're taken through the walls. Now, you and I know that can't be happening, but these people are having a real experience. But the question is it really aliens? Now, my conclusion there is I don't believe it is. I mentioned before that I believe as a Christian there is a spiritual dimension to our existence. As non-Christians would use the word paranormal, supernatural, paraphysical, those types of things. And, you know, as I said, that was the evidence they're confronted with. But here's the interesting thing, these people that have contacts, and you can pretty much find out whether they're genuine or not, you know, because they form a pattern of events. they're told very, very interesting stories. People are told that they're special, they've been chosen, go off and do a mission, something like this, and they always seem to have some sort of religious connotation. And again, you don't have to take my word for it, go and have a look at the research. Why would advanced extraterrestrials come just to teach us religious messages? And it seems to me, and again the researchers will show you, that the messages being received are deceptive in nature. They will tell you things like, well, you know, we've come from Venus or Mars. In the 60s, that was the messages. Well, we now know that's impossible. Now they say they come from Sirius or Orion or Zeta Reticuli or somewhere far off, where we can't test those claims. And that's the problem. And some of the stories they've told us, like that, we know to be demonstrably not true. And if someone comes to you, Chris, and tells you a story and does all these things and says, I'm here to help you, but then does brutal things to you and then lies to you, then I don't think trust is a good place to start.
So you're telling me that you would see these aliens as such as some kind of spiritual phenomena that is not in fact coming here to benefit us. They're not from outer space coming here to enrich the human experience. They are of some sort of a religious nature.
I believe they're interdimensional, and again, that fits my Christian perspective, because I would believe that the spiritual dimension, if you like, you can call it an interdimension or another dimension, so it is interdimensional as well. The Bible talks about beings called angels, and most people have a view of angels, for example, as being, you know, some sort of fairy type creature with, you know, angel wings out the side or something like that. But actually, when you look at the Bible, it's never ever recorded like that. Angels appear as real, almost physical beings. They've interacted with human beings. You know, they've harmed them in some cases. The Bible is full of accounts like that. So they can interact physically in our reality, yet they seem to be able to be flit in and out of our reality as well.
Gary, fantastic. So here we are, we're looking at the alien intrusion, and you're basically coming up with the conclusion that this is the same old spiritual realities people have dealt with maybe for thousands upon thousands of years.
Well, it's interesting. The movers and shakers that I mentioned pretty much will tell you the same thing, that it mirrors what they call supernatural or demonic events in some cases that have been known to parapsychologists and theologians for many hundreds of years.
Gary, thanks for that. If you want to know more...
So we've covered how it went, the flying saucer movement went from being a crackpot kind of theology into somewhat respectable. And as I said, it started really in 1987 and it's continued until this day. Now, we need to be specific when we start looking at what New Age messages are all about, okay? Now, what the UFO messages are all about. Now, there are people, in fact, it's a subtitle of my book. It's called UFOs in the New Age, and underneath it says Extraterrestrial Messages in the Truth of Scripture. Now, I believe in the Bible. I believe in both the Old Testament and New Testament, and what I thought I would do is these people claim to have brand new revelations about reality. Okay, they claim that the revelations are new for today. Brad Steiger, as I said, calls this book The Fellowship, the New Age Apocrypha. He says it should be added onto the Bible. Now, a thought came to me when I was contemplating this whole movement and what I was reading, and all of what I was reading really disturbed me. And the reason it disturbed me, it contradicts the Bible from brim to brim. From brim to brim, and I have a number of books up here. Well, Whitley Strieber, this is his sequel to Communion. It just contradicts God's Word all the way. We have here, this is the Raelian movement. It's one of the largest UFO cults today. I know you can't see this, but this is more than 50,000 members. It says, let's welcome our fathers from space. And then underneath it says, they created humanity in their laboratories. And it calls the aliens, it calls them the Nephilim, I think is what he calls them. But there you have the symbol of their movement. It's a swastika inside a Star of David. And this guy, and this is his picture, the founder of this cult, he says the aliens regularly visit him, and they've taken him to their planet and have given him brand new truth about everything. And you know what they did? They redefined what good and evil is. They took him to his planet and told him that Lucifer is a good guy now, not Jesus. Okay, he also even had like a whole chapter on new truths that he somehow learned about Jesus. And all the truths really denied his divinity, denied his person, nature, and work. And this is what I began seeing, that if you look at UFO literature, why is it? Now, why is it that they always attack Christianity? Why do they always attack specifically the person, nature, and work of Jesus Christ? That's what it's all about today, and I really have not seen any channel literature that in one way or another did not attack Christianity. Every time it does, repeatedly. Why would it, let me ask you something, why would aliens travel billions of miles in some cases just to attack Jesus? I mean, why is it that they're interested in one thing and one thing only, if you read their messages, changing the way humankind thinks about God. They want to get us to stop thinking of God as monotheistic and start thinking to ourselves as God. If any of you are very much involved with it, know much about the New Testament, there's a talk about in the book of Revelation, a final battle between the forces of evil, the Antichrist, and God. You'll see that that is the very sin that the Antichrist someday is thrown into the lake of fire for, claiming to be God. And yet these aliens are coming millions of miles to try to get everyone to say we're gods. Amazing, you know.
It is called channeling, where the physical body is only the vehicle. The vocal cords resound with non-physical voices. The phenomenon is widespread. There are thousands of channelers in North America alone, and millions of adherents come from all walks of life, seeking the wisdom of the so-called spirit guides. Who are these voices? Extraterrestrials? Ascended masters? Highly evolved spirit beings? These are just some of their claims.
It will laugh. It will laugh.
The practice itself is difficult for any of us to accept at face value. Is the supernatural interacting with the natural? Are spirits really in contact with humans? If so, who are the voices making the claims and providing the information?
With the Edgar Cayce style, deep trance style, there came through a group of guides numbering in the thousands, several thousands, and in time they gave their name and they call themselves Starfleet.
They have told me that they are extraterrestrial intelligences from another star system, I guess is the closest thing you could say, and yet they're also multidimensional beings. Even though they do have physical forms, they're not quite the same as ours are. And there are others, too, that I've seen that are extraterrestrial, that look different from them, but they seem to work together.
Another channeler, Pat Radagast, channels a spirit called Emmanuel. In her book simply called Emmanuel's Book, Radagast describes her first encounter. The first time I saw Emmanuel, he appeared, as he still does, as a being of golden light. Steve White channels a group of entities who take on yet a different form.
I channel several different beings. There are beings that are termed the spiritual hierarchy and the Ashtar Command. All of a sudden everybody goes, ooh, the Ashtar Command, UFOs and stuff. But the Ashtar Command, they're etheric beings. They're not in a physical embodiment like we have. And as one evolves from, let's say, the third dimensional plane to others, they can choose different aspects of service. And the Ashtar Command are ascended masters who have chosen to be in service to different planets going through transition.
Ageron's about 8 feet tall. He's slim, but very powerful. His main emanation seems to be in the blue range, the blues, the violets, the purples. Actually, I called him Blue for many years because I couldn't hear his name. Even Ageron is only a very small portion of his real name, because their names are comprised of all their experience and all their knowledge, and we just don't have the vocal cords or the comprehension to be able to say their whole name. So they've given me little bits of their names.
In the documentary, UFOs and Channeling, the late actor Telly Savalas reveals that the purpose of channeling these alien entities is entirely consistent with the purpose of the New Thought, New Age movement, to change the thinking of mankind.
Tonight, We're going to show you some film that may change the way you think about life. Change the way you think about life.
Next, we are introduced to a woman who channels a spirit, calling itself Leah.
Hello, Philip. How are you today?
Very good, Leah. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. So, what is it that you wanted to know?
Where are you from?
I'm from Venus.
I don't think anybody's going to believe that you or anybody else could be from Venus. Could you explain to us how you could be when everybody knows it's uninhabitable?
They think it's uninhabitable because it is not inhabitable by physical life forms. We have bodies of light.
While Leah rambles on with fantastical ideas, she soon compels the audience toward global unity, a message found throughout the New Age movement.
And what occurs here on this planet will affect the rest of the universe. Can you, with all of your different ideas, all of your different races, come together as one planet and one people? We have dedicated millennia upon millennia to this idea.
UFO researcher John Weldon then offers this question. How credible is it to think that literally thousands of genuine extraterrestrials would fly millions of light years simply to teach New Age philosophy, deny Christianity, and support the occult? And why would the entities actually possess and inhabit people just like demons do if they were really advanced extraterrestrials? Dr. Pierre Guérin, an eminent scientist associated with the French National Council for Scientific Research, concludes that UFO behavior is more akin to magic than to physics as we know it, and that modern UFOnauts and the demons of past days are probably identical.
As we know it. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that first film that came out about UFOs, the house that the mother and little boy were living in, you know, the toys began running around and screws unscrewing in the presence of UFOs. What the film was saying was the same people that run UFOs run haunted houses. And I would say that's absolutely true.
In 1969, the United States Printing Office issued a 400-page publication entitled UFOs and Related Subjects, an Annotated Bibliography. The author was the senior bibliographer for the Library of Congress, Miss Lynn E. Cateau. During her research, she read over 1,000 articles, books, and other literature. She summarizes her findings in the preface of the bibliography. A large part of the available UFO literature is closely linked with mysticism and the metaphysical. It deals with subjects like mental telepathy, automatic writing, and invisible entities, as well as phenomena like poltergeist manifestations and possession. Many of the UFO reports now being published in the popular press recount alleged incidents that are strikingly similar to demonic possession and psychic phenomenon that have long been known to theologians and parapsychologists. This document was compiled for the United States Air Force and is now in the Library of Congress. Dr. Jacques Vallée has addressed the United Nations on UFOs and was the model for Lacombe in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He is the author of 8 books on UFOs and has been widely recognized as the premier investigating scientist in the realm of UFO research. In his book, Messengers of Deception, Vallée says, an impressive parallel can be made between UFO occupants and the popular conception of demons. And in his book, Confrontations, he writes, The medical examinations to which abductees are said to be subjected, often accompanied by sadistic sexual manipulation, is reminiscent of the medieval tales of encounters with demons. He also made this statement: "I believe that when we speak of UFO sightings as instances of space visitations, we are looking at the phenomenon on the wrong level. We are not dealing with successive waves of visitations from space. We are dealing with a control system." And he states, UFOs are the means through which man's concepts are being rearranged. They are engaging in a worldwide enterprise of subliminal seduction.
Jacques Vallée, at least at that time when he wrote that book, was an agnostic. Interesting that he comes to basically the same conclusions I do as a Christian from my research. And he said about UFOs, they're real, but they're not physical. They're messengers of deception. And this was based on his research of about 20 years. They seem to be psychologically preparing, setting us up for some ultimate delusion that is too horrible even to imagine as yet. I would agree with that.
If this is some sort of mental thing that's happening to people, then why aren't the scientists or the doctors or whatever trying to find a cure?
This phenomenon was a real phenomenon. This was something that was actually happening to these people.
I was like paralyzed.
What you call like a little being, but he was luminescent like light.
The big bulbous head, the gray skin.
What I saw was a typical gray.
The big black eyes.
2.5, 3 feet tall.
They all were dealing with something that was very unusual from a human perspective. This was something I felt that we needed an answer to, because at this point in time there were no answers. My name is Joe Jordan, and I'm the State Section Director for the Mutual UFO Network for Brevard County, Florida. I'm also lead field investigator. When we get a call for an investigation, we take all the information we could over the phone, and then we'd send investigators out, sometimes myself, sometimes other investigators working with me, and we'd follow up to do an investigation report. To these people, they were sincere, they had sincere experiences, and they were looking, a lot of them looking for help, and they felt that being that we were involved as researchers and investigators, that we could be some help to them.
My name is Joyce Ailens. I'm a floral designer. Well, I am separated from my husband. We've been separated for about 5 years. I have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and I have 9 grandchildren. One abduction experience we had, both of us, and both of us remember this too. I was laying in the bed, my husband and I was laying on my right side. And all I could see, when I opened my eyes, all I could see was this red light above the window, and I could see my husband's shoulder, but I was like paralyzed. His skin looked like elephant skin. He had the big bulbous head with the big wraparound eyes.
As an honest researcher, I realized that I couldn't just count these people out because the stuff that they had was so bizarre.
Whenever I went on board ship, the alien he got really mad at me because I had had my tubes tied after my daughter was born. He said, well, it doesn't make any difference because I can do it. Well, I honestly believe the next morning when I woke up, I was pregnant. It was about 3 months later, I was abducted, and they took the child. A little while later, they came again, and I was on board ship, and one of the aliens brought a child to me. How did that come from me? How? How does that happen?
Most of the researchers in the realm have said it wasn't possible to stop an experience. Knowing that, I called some of the leading researchers in the country. So I said, guys, I've got a very unusual case here. This man, we'll use the name Bill, and during his experience, in fear, he calls out, Jesus, 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 or Jesus, please help me. By calling out, he abruptly stops his abduction experience. These entities can be stopped in the name and authority of Jesus Christ.
Once down in Cocoa, this was after I accepted Jesus Christ, they tried to come. And I kept saying, no, no, you're not doing this. And I took on the empowerment of Jesus Christ, and I stopped that.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. These are spiritual entities.
Taking on the empowerment of Jesus Christ puts a stop to a lot of things. And he's helped me a great deal. Thank you, Lord.
I contacted some of the top researchers in this country in abduction research, the ones that had been on the lecture tours, the ones that had written the books. Information we had consumed to get us to the point to where we could call ourselves abduction researchers. Called them at home on the phone. I asked these guys, I said, can you help me with a particular case? They said, sure, we'd love to. Introduced myself, told them a little bit about the case. First thing out of their mouths, can we go off the record? I said, sure we can. Just help me out here. Off the record means I can tell you what they said, but I can't tell you who said it. I do respect anonymity if it's asked. MUFON always respects anonymity, even with experiencers. You come to me, you don't want your story told or you don't want your name given out, we will respect that. These guys shared with me, the ones that I talked to by phone, that they too had come across cases like this. And I said, really? I said, all we hear is you cannot stop this experience. But yet you're telling me you also have come across people who have been able to stop this experience and in that manner? And they said, yes, we have. Well, my next question is how come you don't share this? Why isn't this being shared? If you have documented cases like the one I just came across, why isn't this being shared? One of two answers, or both answers, came out of each of the researchers' mouths that I talked to, off the record. First thing out of their mouth was, we really didn't know what to make of it. I'm fine with that. I didn't know what to make of it. But the problem was when they brought up the second answer. We really didn't want to go there because it might affect our credibility in the realm. You understand what I just said? They have information that we rely on, their research, their sharing of information, for answers. But they're sitting on it. You know, all through this UFO field, you hear about government cover-up this, government cover-up that. What I just found here was we got to cover up amongst the researchers themselves that people are relying on for the truth. And I shared with them, I said, you know, I got nothing to lose here. I'm a new investigator. If you're telling me there's more cases out there like that, I'm going to go find them, and I'm going to document this. This was now going to become my piece of the UFO puzzle. There's a lot of researchers. They each have a piece of the puzzle. We're all trying to bring them together and put them on a table so we can see what the picture looks like. Guy just shared a piece of it with you just a few minutes ago. This was my piece that I was bringing together. I was going to document other cases like this and find out how many there were. How big is this? Okay? And you know what they all said? Please do, because we can't. Over the next 10 years, up till now, I have worked with over 400 abduction experience cases, all matching that first experience. That they've been able to stop the experience by calling out in the name and authority of Jesus Christ. I did not ask to do this research. I did not ask for this piece of the puzzle. This happened to be the one I was dealt. I had no idea it would get this big. I still have cases coming in. We started posting those cases on the internet just for the evidence. Written testimonies from the people themselves. As more and more and more and more got put on the internet on our website, more and more people were seeing them. And then the next thing I know, I've got people coming to me and saying, I've been reading those testimonies on your website where people have been able to stop this horrific experience that they're going through. Can you help me stop it? Well, that brings us to a whole nother level. We took the findings from these hundreds of cases, looked at the similarities, looked at how these people's lives were affected and how they were able to stop the experience. And we put it together and said, I think we can help you by sharing what these people have done. There's three questions that the top researchers in the world are still asking. Well, one question, but there's three answers to it. That question is, why does this happen to these people? They still do not have an answer to that question. But in the hundreds of cases that we've worked with, and not just myself, Guy's worked with cases, Pastor Chris Ward's worked with cases. There's more and more and more. Okay? This is where the evidence is coming in. This is where you have to put the documented evidence together to show what you're dealing with. What we found working with these experiencers is a commonality. An answer to that question, why has it happened to certain people? A, you asked for it. You kidding me? People ask for this? You would be amazed. We've stood there in the vendor area with our tables at the Roswell Convention Center in Roswell at the UFO Convention and Conference and Festival July 4th weekend, and people come up to the table and say, man, I'd really like to have that happen to me. I'm going, please be careful what you ask for. People really want to know what it's about, to the point where they're asking, let it happen to me. Believe it or not, they really do that. B, some people unknowingly open a door to the experience, and the commonality there was involvement in the New Age metaphysical realm or the occult realm. We saw it over and over and over and over and over. When you engage in unknown things outside of God, the creator of His Word, you make yourself vulnerable to these entities. We have the documentation to show this over and over and over. We found this reason to be the most often found root cause. Remember the gal at the end? That was the mom. Why can't they find a cure for this? She's found a cure for this. Hollywood's not going to tell you that part. There's an end to that story, and it's a happy ending. Joyce Ahrens, come on up. Joyce is from Missouri. Okay. You want to talk?
You know, I really don't know what to say because all these people have stood up there and said everything that I feel. My God is an awesome God. He is an awesome God. And I can testify to what all of these people are saying, that I stopped him dead in his tracks. He could never touch me again, ever. He will never have that chance. They tried once, and it didn't work. I've never had them come back at me again. My family are still riding the fence. But I left that up to him, and he'll take care of that. Of that, I have no doubt. It may take a little while, but I can stand here and say that my husband, my daughter, and my son have not had any more experiences since I became a believer and gave it to him. Thank you.
Evidence. This is the most powerful evidence in the UFO community. You won't see this on TV. You won't see it at the conferences. You won't read about it from all the secular researchers. I've got 400 cases, 80 of them that have gone public. I bring you 8 of them right here today. This is really happening. The experience is really happening to these people. But there's a name and authority over that experience. So much for their high technology. It bows to the name and authority of Jesus Christ.